My name's Stephen Bostock. I've been farming here at Hall Farm, Gammersgill for most of my life. It's more of a way of life really, is farming, I would have said. When you're working in and living in that environment, you can get quite hooked on it, and perhaps from a young age, so you become entwined in it really. Mum and Dad first came to the farm in 1958 when they initially got married, and rented the farm. Then it was a much smaller farm in those days. Mum and Dad both came from farming backgrounds, but from a view of not being able to get to inherit their own farm, they had to start out on their own. And Mother is really probably still in charge, I would say, to some degree. The farm is run by myself and David. He's my sister's son. He's very intelligent and he's very good at what he does.
My name's Dave Fulton. I'm a hill farmer here in Gammersgill and Coverdale. I'm 24-year-old. I've been farming for as long as I can remember. I've always wanted to be a farmer. I often think, oh, if I hadn't been a farmer, what would I have done like? And but I always think, no, it's farming. Like, I could have a go at something else, but I wouldn't be able to do it as half as good. Your heart would have to be in it. And I don't think it would be if I did something else. Yeah, working with Stephen, it's good. Well, good crack as well, and good working relationship, which is very important. It's good having someone about a bit older than yourself, just a few more years on his head to, I can point us in the right direction if I'm struggling with something or wondering what he would have done back in the day.
It's nice that David's coming in to hopefully keep the farm going. He's very much like Dad, so that's nice that he's followed on in his granddad's footsteps really, and hopefully eventually one day David will take the farm on his own accord. Let's hope so. That'd be nice. Spring on the farm is probably my favourite time of year really. It's a season where everything comes to life. All the leaves coming out of the trees, everything's bursting into flower, the meadows are starting to grow. It's just a beautiful time of year.
Springtime on the farm, it's a busy time of year, a good time of year, but very busy. You've got to be on the ball. You've got hundreds of young newborn lambs to look after, which you can imagine chucks up a few problems here and there. Lambing
time is probably the most difficult time of year. Our sheep lamb mostly outdoors, so that can present many problems in itself. This year there's a shortage of grass. The weather was quite good, but it was really dry.
In lambing time, you see your lamb's been born and you rear that lamb up, you give it a good life, and you make sure everything's all right with it, and then you go and sell it on when it's ready to move on. In tupping time, back in November, we have to put a certain sheep to a certain tup to produce a certain type of lamb. It's not as straightforward as what folk might think. Say, for instance, I have an older Swaledale sheep. She'll go to a lesser to make a meal, which they'll go down south for breeding.
Springtime is also the time when we put the cattle outdoors. The cattle are indoors from November until May, really. And because this year there was quite a shortage of grass, we've had to keep the cows indoors for longer. That's been quite a challenge in itself, just keeping the cows in for that extra 2 or 3 weeks. Of course, before we move them, we also need to make sure we've got the correct cow with its own calf. Otherwise, that would create some huge problems. We take some of the cattle up to some land that we rent. That process involves loading the cows and calves into the trailer and moving them up the road. They love it. They love the new grass, and they often go galloping off into the sunset. Spring and that time of year is where we get to do some maintenance on the farm. Probably the biggest job we have to do is looking after the dry stone walls. We have several miles of dry stone walls on the farm. Stones are all there, hopefully, but it's just a matter of using our own skills that we've developed over time to go and repair those walls. Also, we've got some harrowing to finish off in one of the meadows before the grass starts to grow. Lambs and ewes tend to rub against the walls, and that can sometimes dislodge stones which fall into the meadows. So we need to pick all those stones up, put them back on the walls, make sure there's nothing for the machinery to catch in silage time. So I think that's one of the beauties of farming. Even though it's quite an intense job, nothing ever stays the same. So as the seasons come round, you've got different jobs to do in those seasons. That whole circle of the farming year brings so many different skills and different tasks that you need to do, which is it's quite exciting, really. Farms are really important to the economy. The farming operation has been probably continued for centuries in Coverdale. A lot of land now is privately owned. In Coverdale and in the wider area, I think it's important that the farmers, landowners, try and put a little bit back into the wildlife and conservation aspect. This is a really, important area, and once that's been lost, it's really difficult to get back. So we're always thinking about our next management plan for, not only for the farm but also for wildlife as well. Dad, especially when he was farming, he was always, he might be called a traditional farmer. He was interested in obviously the farming, but he was also very aware of the conservation side. He always had a great interest in the wildlife, and I'd like to think I've kept that tradition going. Imagine living anywhere else, really. It's always fantastic to come home and see Coverdale. It's quite a special place. We all know each other from one end of the valley to the other.
When I'm up on top of our moor, you can see right down into the Vale of York, looking across right over to Teesside, the old steelworks. It's a hell of a spot view, like it. It's grand, like it. I think where else would you want to be on a great fine day?
What do I feel when I'm doing farming? That's an interesting question. Well, I feel quite proud in a way to be able to, hopefully what we're doing now will be enjoyed by future generations. You never actually own something properly, you look after it, and then for the next generation.
In a way, we're just passing through, we're just looking after the spot basically, because no one's here forever, we're just a blink really. And I think if you take your farm on and if you look after it and you're passing it on in a better state than what you got it, or as best you can anyway, I think that's very important.